People who have met psychopaths, what was their giveaway that they were psychos? Serious, he was my friend's friend. I met him only a few times. He asked me out and I said no politely. He got so angry instantly and told me he already knows my home address, so he's going to assault me and traffic me to Russia. And a lot other disgusting things, our threats, racist remarks, etc. I was really scared and he was smirking while cornering me. Anyways, my friend got him off of me that day, and after some days I found out he shot and killed his own dog after that incident. No normal people get that angry because of rejection and then kill their own dog. A stunning lack of empathy in a situation where any normal person would feel for another. Example from my own life: I mentioned to a woman friend of my ex that I was seeing and we were on and off, and right then we were on and she looked like I had slapped her across the face. I realized she had a crush on him and I was sorry I'd said it. She would have found out in her own time anyway, and I regretted I hurt her without meaning to. Later when I told my ex, he laughed and thought it was so funny. No normal person would have reacted so callously. I like bars, and talking with strangers. One night I was smoking outside and struck up a conversation with a stranger. As soon as I saw his eyes I knew something was up, and was like, "Oh, sorry, never mind," and left. He approached me later that night and asked what happened. He could tell I was obviously spooked. I told him straight up that I could see murder in his eyes. He didn't disagree and tried to have a normal conversation, all while admitting to killing 3 people. We talked for a minute or two, but I slipped away as soon as he was distracted. My last serious GF. She was cool and all when we started, but she would snap all crazy for no reason, and when she would, her face would twist in a way with a look beyond disgust. Hard to explain, best way I can compare is you were to see a picture of young Demi Moore like in the movie Ghost, her face so nice and soothing looking. Then in a second she would look like Bilbo from Lord of the Rings, that kind of contortion. Like I said, hard to explain. There were times she would speak to herself as well. I played a lot of volleyball in college. Post-college I wanted to keep playing for fun and I had moved to a new city. About 2 weeks and I met someone who was very good but also a little too intense for just community gym volleyball. The following week someone new to the sport missed a pass. He proceeded to get very angry, curse out the new player, and get escorted out of the gym with a particular look in his eye. The following week he murdered his wife, kids, then killed himself. My brother is one. He's as good of a person as he can be, I think. Empathy isn't there though. He understands on a logical level actions have consequences. He forms if, then statements which guide his actions. I don't think he's able to care about people on an emotional level. My parents loved him and would often encourage him to down me or beat me to death. His first book was The Prince by Machiavelli. It's largely about the ends justifying the means and killing your brothers. I was in jail with a guy who was in for murder. He cancer, so his attitude was very much I don't give a fuck. He was prepared to die in prison. Anyways, I asked him and he told me he'd killed 3 people. He said he knew it was his calling to kill people because it gave him the most euphoric feeling in the world when he took life. A high better than any high you can imagine. He would say. He licked his lips while we talked about it sometimes. It got kinda weird. I'm one of the leaders of the company I work for. We had an accident, where a man I've known for 20 years got crushed to death in a work-related accident. We had an emergency meeting, and one of the leaders above me only cared about the downtime and how much this would affect the time of our progression. He also has those shark eyes, where you can see the eyes, but there is nothing behind them. Totally lifeless. TBH, there are no quick giveaways, but if you talk to one for a long time, you'll notice their lack of empathy for people. Only met one, but he's not as smart as movies had me believe, and did not try to kill me, but would not give 2 shits if I die, that's for sure. They also do have feelings sorta, which is weird because it's hard for me to imagine having feelings, but not caring about other people's feelings. I knew a guy early in my work career who genuinely enjoyed manipulating people. He lived to embarrass people, too. Almost everyone hated him except for those who thought he lived the punk lifestyle where you pay no attention to what society expects of you and live life on your own terms. Unfortunately, he was very good at his job, so he wasn't fired until they discovered he was stealing from the company. I always heard that, in most cases, normal people will copy someone yawning. I hear this is an evolutionary thing as we all used to sleep together and it would promote everyone sleeping at the same time. However, due to psychopaths and sociopaths have no empathy, they are unlikely to yawn after seeing someone else doing it. I am sure, however, there are more intelligent people on here with better answers. His drunken tirades about how he used to kill people for his white supremacy brotherhood, how he had influence in Republican politics and told politicians what to do and what not to do, his Nazi and white supremacist tattoos, his influence in whatever gang he was in all along the East Coast, and the most obvious, his psychosis prescription he never got refilled after the month of being my roommate. She was my friend, until I realized that literally half her life was a lie she made up just for fun. Literally admitted it was just funny to her to see us stressed and whatnot for her well-being. She lied about being kicked out of the house, her father dying, being raped, being drugged, the list goes on. Just for shits and giggles? And then couldn't care less when we walked away from her. I dated a psychopath. The real giveaway is in their actions, not their words. You notice over time that they might say they feel bad for you getting hurt, but it actually excites them. Their impulse when you trip over something is to laugh or smile. When you get into a fight, they delight in making you feel awful. All other reactions are secondary to try to catch their true nature. I met a guy at work, we talked for a couple hours. The whole time I got this vibe, like his demeanor was so calm but in a creepy way. Almost as if there's nothing you could say to the man that would invoke any expression. Another coworker came in and knew him from years ago on another job. Turns out he did 10 years in prison for hiring hitmen to kill his mother. This is something only a clinical psychologist would be able to accurately discuss. Everyone thinks THEXE was a psychopath, narcissist, whatever the fact is we can't know for sure, only a doctor who takes the time to diagnose the person in a clinical setting. Even if the person says they were diagnosed, it's not something to guess at or assume. I met a few in prison and a few on the streets over the years, diagnosed ones, even though as of today around my way the term is not used anymore, it's now antisocial personality disorder, and from my POV they all had one thing in common, and that was their ability to play mind games, mind control on a high level, and really enjoy it. Charming and gregarious, but in a phony way. Doesn't care about anyone, but is obsessed with his self-image. He expects everyone's respect and for everyone to defer to him. His kids are props to make him look good. Manipulative and domineering, to the point of making weird threats and ultimatums. I was in a relationship with someone. Once the love bombing was over and I was trauma bonded, he told me he was a psychopath. It was his own assessment, he hadn't been professionally diagnosed. Later he said the perfect job for him would be an assassin. He said he'd have no problem killing people. My uncle's one. He is a very good lawyer and got me a freelance job for a bank. Before I had the first meeting, we went for a walk and I mentioned that I'm a bit nervous. I will never forget the look in his face, when he tried to comprehend what I was saying. He couldn't get it. Posted images or videos of them doing horrible things and bragging about it. Sometimes violent acts, sometimes sexual assaults, and sometimes just sharing private videos about the other party's consent and acting all happy about it. Taking pleasure in cruelty. I am a school teacher. And while I haven't had a lot of them, some students just give you that feeling that something is off. Probably had 2 students that I just didn't want to go near and found out later that they had committed pretty bad crimes. They don't care at all about your issue. If you try to bring up something that bothers you, it is instantly a you issue, and now they are mad that something bothered you. Don't worry though, once you apologize for being mean they will be happy again. She let her pedo ex-boyfriend rent her kids out. Her response: it's not that bad. Why does everyone hate me? It's so unfair, the court won't let me visit my kids. Plus, just her eyes were just empty, a snake was a box of emotion compared. I had a friend who was a psychopath, or at least I had someone who seemed to prefer my company to not, as she'd follow me around at work. She was just odd. She wasn't violent or mean, but her reactions to things were sort of off and delayed. I heard an interesting theory the other day from a clinical forensic psychologist who said that psychopaths view other people as chess pieces, to be used against people, to manipulate people in order to exact their revenge fantasies. We met in high school and he openly would tell me how he would kill animals. He wasn't bragging or anything. Anytime the topic of hobbies came up, he'd just say it like he's saying, "Oh, I like to draw." Messed up mker. He told me that his stepfather was sick and if he dies, he would have to take care of his mother. Oh damn, he says, but then added that no problem, accidents can happen. Old people always fall down the stairs. Has anyone heard that psychopath test that says if you know the answer to this question you could be psychopathic? I'm saying this because putting it into words takes more brain matter than I have right now. I'm just happy to be away from him now. The more I look back, the scarier as things make him laugh are. There's almost like a layer missing in our interactions. A depth of mutual understanding that's absent. There's a sense of their conduct being performative, learned rather than genuine. There actually was none. She's a pathological liar, that became clear pretty quickly, but it was a while before I realized how fucked her brain really was. Apparently this is not unusual. I don't know if I've met a psychopath, but I can imagine a few people I know may be psychopaths. They just seem sort of detached and selfish and uncaring, but not evil. Once a kid tried to shoot me in the face with a BB gun. I was like 10. As an adult, a friend tried to strangle me because a friend of ours kissed me and he wanted her. He was lying very convincingly, but at some point I realized something was off. In that second he started smiling at me. I think he noticed my realization. Worked with one. Chopped his finger off for the payout at work. Every time I spoke with him, part of my job, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I meet one daily in the mirror. I get what I want. I do not care for others' feelings. I support them as long as they are loyal and useful. She said it. I am a psychopath. But I'm working on it. She was not working it. That relationship lasted longer than I should have let it. I had no idea whatsoever. Until I woke up one day with the entrance to my house and whole car spray painted with cuss words and my name, Skull. The malice in their motives. Their priorities and goals. Also, the superficial charm that wins over people who don't know them well. To the concerned Redditor, I am doing well and I am in a great place in my life. Relieved face. Thank you for looking out for a random stranger. Constant gaslighting until I felt literally crazy. Destroyed my confidence and identity for many years. I think he did it for fun. He showed little emotion, yet could turn on the charm. He only showed his true self once you were of no use to him anymore.